Knicks family, what's going on? We got the whole, well, not the whole, but we got NBK fam in the building.
Yes.
The NBK fan panel talk. Behind the scenes, it was getting a little heated. Me and Josh talking about James Dolan and how much blame should he have for the Knicks overall in the past 20 years or so. We're not gonna talk about that right now because I think it'll get a little bit too heated, and I know you guys don't like hearing about Dolan this, Dolan that. So we'll leave that for behind the scenes. Maybe we'll do a special show on it, a controversial show on it, sometime down the line. But Queen, salute. Thanks for
Thank
joining,
you.
Josh. It's been a while. You know, matter of fact, I'll tell you, I haven't had you on in quite a while, but prior to the last 2 weeks, you were part of my largest streamed video. I gotta give you your credit. I've been waiting, trying to get you back to see if it was you that got me all those views, or what. So we'll see how this video does. But thank you guys for joining. How y'all doing?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good actually.
Yes, and shout out to the
Doing
chat.
doing pretty well. Got a little bit of a day off, so I got some time today. I got time today. You know what I mean?
All right,
So I'm ready.
that's good. You doing a
Appreciate it.
triple header like the good old days.
Yes, sir.
So it's gonna be a freestyle show. We talk about some of the things that we probably talked about already. Some things we haven't. I think I want to start off with Jaden Ivey and the reports that the Knicks are really interested in him. And we talked about it a little bit in the past, but do you think there's a chance? Do we have the assets? Do we have what it takes to move up to get him? What do you think it would take? And is he somebody that is so high on your board that you would like us to pursue him?
I'll go first. I think first and foremost, if the Knicks are pursuing Ivy, that tells me that they're looking to bring a star in here. They're looking for someone that's a home run hitter. Whether they get that guy in the draft or whether they get him via trade, they're just looking for that guy because they understand that in this league you need to have guys like that in order if you want to be successful. As far as what it will take to get him, I think it'll take this year's first, so number 11. I think it'll take next year's first, and depending on who our trade partners are, it may take up some other assets as well. But I don't think it will be as expensive as say going to get a Donovan Mitchell, someone who
Right.
already made All-Star teams, 4 or 5 All-Star teams, or whatever it is. So I definitely think it'll take this year's pick and next year's pick, which I'm fine with giving them next year's pick because we got 2 of them, right? And I'm more. I think we have to give up the Dallas pick because you can't trade consecutive first-round picks back-to-back years. So
Right.
I think that's what it'll cost for them. And if they decide to go up and get someone like Jaden Ivey, that tells me that they believe that he is that dude and he's going to be the dude of the future. And I don't think that's any shade to RJ or anything like that because, some people are going to make, this is RJ's team, all of that. I think they believe that Jaden Ivey is going to be that dude and take us to the next level. So if that's the case, I'm excited.
Before I ask you some more questions, Queens, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm okay. Is my mic high enough? Yeah, I'm okay with Ivy. The only thing I would say is it's a slower. It's going to take some time for Ivy to grow into his potential, more so than getting somebody like Donovan Mitchell, who's been in the league for a little while. So it would just mean a little more years on the rebuild. But I've been working out. I've been eating well. So hopefully it'll be around for when it finally does happen.
and I'll just say potentially. You know what I mean? And I only say that because a lot of rookies over the past few years, or maybe you could say every year, there's always one that pops. There's always one that pops
That's true.
sooner than expected.
True.
So who's to say? Maybe this guy comes in and has an impact immediately.
Yeah.
So I agree with you guys. I do think we have what it takes to get him. But on the flip side of that is, who do we have to deal with to make it happen? You know what I mean? Because when you talk about we have what it takes, the only real person to determine that is the opposing team. You know what I mean? So, and so I'm assuming we're thinking for the fourth pick, not 1, 2, or 3. I think
Right.
1, 2, or 3 makes it a little bit more challenging. Maybe we don't have what it takes
I,
to
I
move
think
up
we
that
have
high.
I think we have what it takes to even move up to number one. It's, are we willing to do that? Like, there's some teams that don't even have it, would say we don't
Okay,
even have the assets to do it. We have the assets to do it. It's just, are we willing to pay that price to go up to number one?
so let me ask: are you willing to move up into the 1, 2, or 3 spot? And then, if so, are you still picking Jaden Ivey?
I don't know in this draft if I would be willing to trade up into the like, this is not a LeBron draft. This is not a Zion draft. Um I don't know if I would be willing to move into the number one spot for Jabari or Holgram. Not me. No, I wouldn't.
So the highest you would potentially attempt to move to is 4,
3, 4.
3, or 4. Josh?
I'm moving up into the top 4. I think because this is not a LeBron or whatever kind of draft, I think that there's only really 4 players, and then there's the rest of the field. So I think if the Knicks can try to get up into that top 4, I think we are like more than likely that we're going to hit a home run on whatever pick that is. Which
So it
is,
does
that's how.
get to 4. It don't matter who falls there. We got somebody.
Correct. I think that's what I'm kind of leaning towards, because we've all know the Knicks have a lot of holes, and I think just bringing a star in, whether it be a wing, whether it be a guard, or even Chet Holmgren, he has a lot of potential to be a really good big in this league for a long number of years. I think getting a player like that, that's gonna take you to the next level immediately. I think easily he can come in and those top 4 guys can come in and contribute right away. No questions asked, things of that nature.
Who would you guys have the biggest question mark or concern about at 4? So obviously this is impossible, but we have the 4th pick, but you still have the choice of those 4 guys. Who's the last guy you go for?
The last guy. That's a
Ooh.
tough one. That's a tough question. Because I can see any one of those guys pop in, and I can see any one of those guys not.
Yeah, more than likely, all 4 of them themselves are not going to turn out to be, the people that they're projected to be, because it never happens that way in the NBA. It never happens. The top four guys, there's always going to be 1, sometimes 2, that just don't pan out to be what they were drafted to be. So that's a really difficult question to answer. What I will say, I think Jabari Smith is going to be really good in this league. Paolo, there's some questions about him, but it's hard to pass up all that talent. Jaden Ivey, same thing, and then Chet Holmgren. I mean, I guess because he's a skinnier type of center. Can he be able to work out? So it's just hard.
It's hard.
It's a hard question.
Yeah, that's why I went and traded to the top pick. But yeah, 4, 3, 4, I would trade.
Josh, I don't think I had your if we had the number 1 pick, who would you go with? Because I know Queen's answer.
Yeah, she's Jabari Smith. She's Jabari. Paolo. Paolo, just to be different from Queen. I mean, I like Smith too. Don't get me wrong. I think out of all 4 of the guys that are top 4, I think Jabari is the one that's really gonna immediately and off the bat and for years to come gonna be like a star in the league. But just to be different from her, I'm gonna say Paolo, just because his ability, his offensive ability. Defensive has had some question marks, but offensively, I mean, he can be dominant.
Right.
Okay. Oh, somebody said there was no sound coming out, but
yeah, he said he hear
me now.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Moving down. I know Josh is not a fan of moving down. I spoke on it briefly with on Sim's show earlier. But if you can pick, if you have a big board, right, of 5 guys, and all 5 guys are available, and you have the opportunity to move down and get 13 and 15, I believe was the 2 picks that Charlotte has. So you're gonna get 2 of the guys that's on your top 5 you wouldn't move down to get 2 assets as opposed to 1?
So a couple of reasons why I won't. First and foremost, on my big board, I believe 1 to 2 of those guys have star potential that you can be able to get at 11, sitting right there in your face, no questions asked. So if that would be the case, then if you move down to 13 and 15, you don't have the opportunity to get those guys or potential opportunity to get those guys because 11 and 12, they'll be gone. So that's number 1. Number 2, I just think we have enough young players already. I know Queen talks about this a lot. I think we have a lot of young players already. At 13 and 15, you're looking at guys that are going to be rotation players in the NBA. And I think one to even both of those guys probably won't even touch the floor that much because of the young guys that we have now. Unless they outplay some of the guys we have already, that'd be a little bit of a different story. But at 11, if there's a guy that you think is star potential on the board, I'm going to stick there at 11 and pick that guy. And it happens very often. 11 picks in the 11th pick in the NBA has turned out to be really good. Talking about Klay Thompson, talking about Devin Booker. This is over the past 10 to 11 years or so. So if I'm at 11 and I see my guy that's at the top of my board that has star potential, I'm going to take that guy rather than trading down, passing up that opportunity to get that guy, and then bringing in 2 rotation players that I think probably won't be in a rotation anyway because of the amount of glut that we have on the roster.
What I will say, though, is in order for the top 10 guys can all be off the board, if Sohan or Doran is not picked in the top 10, unless they're in your in your big board, those guys will be gone. They will all be gone when you plot them. Unless Sohan, Doran, Mark Williams, somebody comes in to drop one of those guys. Otherwise, you're sitting at 11 with Mark Davis. With Johnny Davis gone, Griffin gone, Mathurin gone, Sharp. All of those guys could be gone in the top 10. And now you're left with Doran, Sohan, Mark Williams out of Duke. Now, in a case like that, where all of them are gone, I would be more open to moving down and getting 2 picks. However, if the Knicks roster was a little different, how many young players are we gonna have on the roster?
See, there's some guys that are sleepers for me that I think will be there at 11. I think might be there at 13.
Who's
might
that?
be there. My guy, Jalen Williams.
But that's not. But those aren't. Yes. So those type of players, fine. But Josh talking about star players.
I get it, but I feel like he could be a star. That's what when I say sleeper, I think this kid is legit. I would even pick him at 11 or consider it.
Wow.
He's number 2 on my board behind Dyson. Personally, Davis is there too. I can't lie. He's the guy I've watched the most. I do think he fits great. I think he has that star power, or at least that go-to power. You know what I mean? Like he could be a go-to guy, whether it's in the second unit, whether it's in the starting unit down the stretch. But there's something about this kid, Jalen Williams, and his attitude, and him being under the radar for a worldwide view or like a fan view. But as far as the college, he's people know who he is. You know what I mean? Like the other team knows who he is, and he's been consistent all year, and that he's been more efficient than a lot of these other guys that have been focal points of the opposing team's defense. So if a guy like that, if I could get him at 13 and have another pick, I think he has the potential to be as good, if not better, than Davis.
But this is the thing, Tony. It's asset management.
Mm-hmm.
Why get a guy at 13 when you can get him at 20? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So there's no need to reach and get him that high when you could potentially get him later, unless like San Antonio and Primo, that's your guy. If that's your guy, then you take your draft pick and you get him. You don't wait and hope that he drops.
The
But
problem is we only have one. We don't have 20. We got
right.
11. So
But this is what I'll say about Jalen Williams. And I get it. Mock drafts are off a lot, So and guys outperform their mock draft stock all the time.
every year.
Jalen Williams on mostly everybody's draft board is like in the 20s.
hmm I
I'm
listen.
not taking them 13. Even if
mm,
you know what I mean? I would
I
just
hear
keep
you.
trading down and keep trading.
You know what I noticed about him though? What have the weaknesses been?
I don't remember.
I haven't seen a weakness. The weakness I've seen is uh the competition.
But have
That
you
that
been
that's
looking at the strength and weakness?
I've been looking. I mean, if you find something, let me know. But
Well, there has to be a more
I mean,
significant.
I'm not saying no weakness, but it's been some of the same weaknesses of these guys slotted in the top 14.
Well, there has to be somewhat of a major weakness for him to be that low. There can't be a player that doesn't have any weaknesses besides the competition. I think that there is something out there, and don't get me wrong. I have to look at Jalen Williams. I still have to do my research on him. But I think for a player to be ranked in the 20s, there has to be something else other than the competition. Because if you think about it, I'm sorry, real quick. If you think about it, John Morant didn't play at a major university, right? John Morant was the second best player in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Right, or the second best player on the board that was taken right after Zion in a draft that had RJ and Tyler Hero that went to Kentucky and Michigan's Jordan Poole, stuff like that. So I think there has to be something with Jalen Williams. And I do my research to find out what it is.
Yeah.
But,
I've also heard late bloomer, but again, I can make that same argument for Johnny Davis. I can make that same argument for Mathurin. You know what I mean, guys? Because you look at the improvement from their freshman year to sophomore year. These guys was nowhere near this top of the lottery last year. You know what I mean?
So this is what I'm seeing: lack of burst and speed. He isn't the type of guy that'll wow you with his first step, and typically doesn't blow by players. And that was one player's biggest concern of him. But when you go through, there's a big thing for each, to each one. That's more basketball. There's more basketball, not just not just in terms of competition.
Okay. But a lot of those things, like what you just said, they've talked about the same exact thing with Johnny Davis. That's what I mean. It's been identical concerns. But again, that's just me. And I'm also looking at it from the history of this regime continuously moving back, continuously picking up a second asset. So that's where my mind goes with him. But I really like this kid. I think he's gonna surprise a lot of people. And I'm a keep that in my Rolodex, my mental Rolodex. So I'm sure somebody will call me out if he's a bust. So I'm ready to pat myself on the back if
Listen, people outplay their draft stock all the time. All the time.
I just think with a lot of these scouting reports that we watch on YouTube and everything like that, there's only so many adjectives in the dictionary that you can use to describe players. And sometimes you'll probably get the same description from one player to another. But I think the eye test matters. I think, what you said may play a big part as to why he dropped down a little bit. But I think a lot of that stuff matters. And I think for me, Johnny Davis, I don't think he's the same player as Johnny Davis. I'm just being honest with you. I think Johnny Davis has that amount of potential because he has the ability to take over games. He did it in college. During this past season, I know he didn't shoot that well, but he had the ball in his hands a lot, taking a lot of shots. In college basketball, it's actually more difficult to hit, to be efficient because the court or the three-point line is much smaller and more compact. So, I just don't think there's a comparison between Williams and
Davis is 3 on my list. I mean, I could flip flop and say 2. I could easily say 2 because, to be honest, he's the guy I've seen the most, and I really do like him. My only concern, I know Queen don't like what I say, is can he play the point guard? And then if not, now we got to make these adjustments with the rest of the roster. My
But Tony,
question
this is a
is,
roster that won 37 games. I'm not even worried about the crowded 2, the crowded wing, the crowded point guard. We won 37 games. Put him in
Are they?
there and see who comes out on top. Competition is good. And if he
Yep.
beats out somebody, then you trade him, you move, you move him. I'm not gonna let what we have, stop us from drafting somebody who could potentially be good. And that's for the power forward. And like we're gonna talk about in Queen's Court, the power forward
Mhm.
position as well.
I hear you, and then I mean, in particular, is is he gonna be better than Grimes? You,
He
you
might,
know,
he might
I
be.
no, he might be. I don't. I just don't know. You know what I mean? Like,
That's why you throw them all in there and let them and let them you can't do this with a notepad. You got to you can't say, I don't think this guy's going to be better. We shouldn't draft. You don't know. If you feel like he's a good prospect, throw him in the gym and they'll work it out from there.
but on the flip side, if you feel this guy is gonna be better, I think then it becomes a no brainer, right? You know what I mean? But if you're not sure, I think when you're not sure, that's when you gotta question it. You gotta say, all right, is this guy gonna be better than the guys? Is he gonna be able to beat anybody out for the roster spot, right, or for the rotation minutes? But then if there's another guy that's on your draft board that might be a different position, but you feel like he can beat out some of the guys that you know what I mean, you gotta weigh it that way as well. Would you agree or no?
I just want to say I agree with you, Tone. But I think at 11, if I mentioned home run guys. If you think you're going to hit a home run with a pick, you go ahead and draft that player. But to be honest with you, the Knicks have so many young players. I wouldn't be surprised if this 11th pick goes
Don't
to the
play.
G League or goes to the G League. To be honest with you, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. There were people screaming for James Bouknight to be drafted by the Knicks to move up to get him. He played the G League for most of the year, right? Now, do I think that's going to help his development later on? Absolutely. Could the big club have used him sometime during the season? Maybe. But that's been happening a lot too. So, I mean, we can talk about, this player beating out that player, but I think ultimately, like Queen said, the best player will prevail. And if the opportunity comes down the road, whether it be this year, next year, 2 years from now, I think that player will eventually get on the floor. I think that's how it always happens. Cream is always going to rise to the top.
Right.
Do you guys have any question marks about Davis and Matherin sustaining who they are, being that it was such a huge jump from their freshman years to sophomore years? Like
Not because of that,
is
but
it in
just
the
in general.
because Keith Turner, he says Malachi is a home run. One of the reasons why he's so high on my list is because what he's done has been since his freshman year. I mean, well, obviously he's only a freshman, so it's been year one. You know what I mean? So you should expect the increase in his development moving forward. Where sometimes guys have a bad year, then have a good year, and now it's like, all right, is he gonna revert back to the freshman year? Is you know what I mean, or is he just gonna continue to improve consistently?
But I think
But
that's different at the NBA level. We're talking about a guy that was a freshman in college, now going to the NBA. I would probably bet that unless he's a top 3 pick, 4 pick in the draft, or sometimes not even that, probably top 1 or 2, that he's not going to be doing what he did in college at the NBA level. I think there's still a learning curve that he has to do.
Right.
I'm saying the same for Davis as well.
I agree. I think
Right.
it goes with anybody coming in.
The same for Davis as well. But Davis had played a freshman year. He played a sophomore year. He's a little bit more experienced in that regard compared to a freshman that only had 1 season at the college level. Now to make that prolific jump to the NBA, I think that's a little bit more difficult than
I think the adjustment is the same. To be honest, me personally, you know what I mean. Like you're still going from college to the NBA, whether it's 1 year, 2 years in college to the NBA, is still.
But Davis has had more coaching though. He's had more amateur coaching than someone that's 19 years old that only played 1 year in college. And I think coaching matters. So I understand what you're saying about the jump to the NBA being the same as far as within itself. But I think when you contextualize the fact that we're talking about a freshman was in high school 2 years ago, college last year, and now going to the NBA, I think that's different than someone who was in high school 3 years ago, 2 years in college, and now is coming back, as a rookie in the NBA.
So do you disregard the freshman years of a Davis and of a Matherin?
I don't disregard those. I think those years are important, but I think that second year is also important. He's had more coaching. He's had more time at the amateur level to come into his own and kind of gain that confidence. Now, when he goes to the NBA, I think it's going to take a hit. Obviously, you come into a new situation, right? But I think him having those 2 years in college and actually showing himself that he could take over a team, I think that's very important. I think that's very big, and I think that could, spell, or project what he will be at the NBA level. Not initially, but definitely down the road compared to a freshman who's never really had that, never really had that.
All right, fair enough. What you want to say something, Queen?
Sometimes the way a team is built, you don't get the opportunity. Doesn't mean that you don't have it. With
Devin Booker is a big example of that.
Right.
He was in college. He was not. I don't think he started. I don't think he started in college.
Yeah,
Kentucky was recruited so deep, that he turned out to be that guy. So it can happen.
And that's a perfect comparison. I mean, I've heard a lot of comparisons with Johnny Davis and Booker, and Davis did not start freshman year. He came off the bench, 7 points. So I mean, those are valid points, But again, it's just things that I think about. I want to compare Malachi's freshman year to Davis' freshman year, or you know what I mean. I think you gotta weigh those two things in. You know what I mean? Like both these guys, Mathurin as well, they made huge jumps. I hope they continue on that path, but who's to say it wasn't a flash in the pan, and we don't know that. Same thing with Malachi though. Who's to say he wouldn't come back sophomore year and have a worse season, and then it's like, oh, you should have came out freshman year because you had a better draft stock. Sometimes that happens. People go back to school and the draft stock goes down rather than go up. You would hope everyone's draft stock goes up from freshman year to sophomore year to junior year.
I don't think it's going to be linear. I don't think it has to be development has to be linear. Sometimes, think about Hero, took a step back in his second year, third year, did, much better until the playoffs. So it's not always linear.
And look at Duncan Robinson as well. Came out and lit it up, and then, kind of got demoted, and then kind of in Tibbs' turn became situational. So you never.
Which I don't agree with Eric Spoelstra's decision to do that, by the way, because I think they need some 3-point shooting, but I understand why he did it. I don't agree with it.
Defensive liability. I mean, that's the only thing I even though he didn't shoot as well as historically he normally does either. So yeah, what else we got on the docket? Moving up from the second round, maybe trying to get a second first round pick, whether it's late in the first or just the earliest second round pick. I don't think either one of you would be opposed to doing that. Any guys?
Depending on what we had to give up, if we don't get a center at 11, I would not be averse to moving back in for Kessler or Koloko in the late first.
Any thoughts on Timmy? Is that his name?
I don't think I looked up Tim. Who's that?
I think he played Gonzaga with Chet, the center. No,
I'm not familiar with him.
Josh?
I'm not really familiar with the centers either. The only one I know of is Mark Williams, and I don't think, to be honest, I don't think the Knicks should draft a big, bulky type of center anyway. I think that will hamper us. I do not like centers that can only play one position, that can be a little bit more versatile. So I really haven't even been looking at the centers that much. Most of the forwards that can play five.
I do like Mark Williams, and I know we're gonna talk about that on Queen's Court. But real quick, between Mark, you like Duren over Williams? Mark Williams?
Yeah, he's more versatile. I think he's much more versatile than a Mark Williams, who's just a guy that, is a big blocky center that's going to stay in the paint the entire time. Now, maybe Jalen Duren is going to do a little bit more of that, but I think he's more versatile, not only on the offensive end, but defensively as well.
Mark
I
Williams
don't
is
know.
mobile
Yeah,
though.
I don't know about defensively being more versatile.
No, I mean, I'm talking about the ability to guard multiple positions. That's what I'm talking about. Williams is a shot blocking, Mitchell Robinson type.
I think he could guard on the perimeter
He could
as
guard
well.
on the perimeter some. Maybe not as good as Doran, but he's okay on the perimeter.
Yeah,
For his
I don't know.
size.
Maybe I'm biased because I feel like he is the perfect replacement for Mitchell Robinson. Like my heart is hurting if we're gonna lose Mitch, and I kind of want somebody to fill it. I think Mark Williams would fit that role, but I would not. I probably wouldn't grab him at 11. I definitely wouldn't grab him at 11. But back to that previous scenario of picking up 2 picks and maybe getting him and somebody else, I think that would be something I would.
Would you start him right away?
If Mitch is gone, probably. If Mitch is gone, probably.
Not a fan of that.
Or I mean, at the very least, he'll have the opportunity. You know what I mean? He's got to earn it. I'm not giving it to nobody.
I mean, I just think offensively, we're already limited as it is. Like I told Alex from Bad Weather Fans, I think last season we were last in the NBA in points in the paint. I think that's a lot due to Mitchell Robinson's inability to go anywhere else outside of the paint. I think it's because of that. And last the season before that, we were 25th. I just think we need someone more versatile than a center that's going to stay in the paint the entire time. I think that's why.
Are you
saying
with Doran, you're not getting that?
Are you saying that? Are you saying like Mitch clogs the paint and that's why?
Yeah. So Mitch clogs the paint. That forces that does not allow our penetrators to really get in the paint, because if they do, they get their shot blocked every time because Mitch can't go anywhere else. Kind of just sits in the dunker spot, and then we're not that good of a 3-point shooting team. Like, I think the reason why Utah was able to get away with it for so many years by having someone like Gobert, they've been really good from the 3-point line over the past few years. The Knicks, when we set up for those jump shots at the end of the shot clock, those are terrible shots, and we don't get to the line easily. We don't get to the So I just think that we need a different center out there, someone who can do something a little bit different. Now, even if the center does stay in the paint during the offensive possession, if you can throw the ball down there to the center and have him go to work and just put a little jump hook or something like that, I think that could do wonders for the offense. He doesn't have to stretch the floor and do all of that. Like, I mean, that would be perfect in a perfect world. But someone that you can throw the ball down to, like a DeAndre Ayton, he stays in the paint majority of the time. He has a little baby jumper or whatever, but he can do those little things instead of just standing there in the dunker spot. And I think that can help our offense out. That's why I'm not a fan of Williams.
Fair enough. I just had to clarify it because I know you're a smart guy, Josh. So somebody else, I thought they might have been saying if he stretches the floor, we're gonna get more points in the paint. But you're saying it opens it up for everybody else to get into the paint. I mean,
correct.
That that may be a prime reason why Randall is on the perimeter so much, which a lot of us are calling for him to get back in the paint, get back to that bread and butter of what you were accustomed to, and let the shot be part of the arsenal, but not live and die by it. So
if you notice, the Knicks were much more efficient on offense where they had Randall at the 5. When they had Randall at the 5, whenever Mitch, Noel were hurt, whatever, before Sims really started to get his playing time, the Knicks offensively, you've seen Randall roll into the basket more, the pick and roll with Kemba early in the season. You've seen RJ having those lanes to get to the basket because the paint wasn't so clogged. And that's why I'm a big proponent. If the Knicks want to go small ball, I'm all for it. I think that can open our offense up a little bit. Now, obviously, we're going to suffer a little bit on defensively, but let's say, you draft someone like a Sohan or Terry Eason, and put him out there at the 4 with Randall at the 5. I think defensively and offensively that can work because then you got some options there. Now, obviously, those guys offensively aren't going to score like Sohan or Eason. They're not going to score, but I think for the rest of the guys, I think it opens stuff up.
Are you guys okay with drafting a guy for his defensive potential and not necessarily worrying about letting the offense come when it comes, whether it's down the road or not?
Preferably for me, I would prefer a 2-way player. That's my preference. If you're going to be a one-way player, I prefer you be defensively a one-way player than offensively a one-way player.
I agree with Queen. And this goes back to, again, if those 2-way guys are off the board, then you have to look at the one-way guys. And I'd rather have it be on defense because Offensively, I think stuff can be developed over time, but defensively, if you're able to do stuff defensively and be versatile, I think that can help the team in the immediate. Like right now, the Knicks can benefit by having someone like, Eason or Sohan go out there to play, eat fouls and guard fives and, stuff like that. So.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I don't know how Knicks Nation will respond to a guy limited offensively and banking on the defensive potential being A1.
That was Mitch. We didn't have a problem. A lot of the fan base didn't have a
I mean,
problem with Mitch.
that was second round pick though. So at that point, you could kind of take more chances. I think when it's a second round pick than a guy that is a guaranteed contract and you know what I mean.
But the question is, would the fan base have a problem? I don't think the fan base is going to be like, oh, well, we don't have a problem with Mitch because he was a second round pick, but I'm going to have a problem with Eason doing similarly things defensively, probably better in terms of switchability. I don't think that he was a first or second round pick is going to make a difference to the fans. That's all I'm saying. They're either going to like it or they're not. I don't think the round is going to factor into whether they like it or not.
Well, I think that's going to be the reason why they like it or not. Me personally, not me as the person that feels that way, but some of these fans are I don't think they're very high on Sohan or Eason. There's some that are.
I agree. But I'm saying once he's in the game and he's switching and he's doing everything we need him to do, and Eason is stealing the ball and he's taking it coast to coast and he's slamming and he's a slasher as well, and he's slashing. And he may not be a great offensive player. I don't think they're gonna be like, I don't like what he's doing because he was a first round pick. I mean, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, well, what they will be doing is talk about all the guys that were on the board that we didn't get. Oh, you should have got, a Dennis Smith Jr. or Donovan Mitchell or all these guys that we missed out on in past years. So sometimes I get tired of hearing that aspect. I do try to tend to focus on the positives and not something that's water under the bridge and we can't change. Last thing before we get out of here and get a little break before Queen's Court. And I hear some people in the chat asking, what is the big thing about Sotto? I haven't, they don't know if they think he's a project and this and that. What I will say to that is he might be a project, but go check out Sim's breakdown on Sotto. I think it was super informative. I think it's probably at it's well over 20,000 views. It's almost at 100,000 views. And if you go through the comments, everybody's saying like this video is the best video I've seen on Sotto. I think this kid has star potential. He's a ways away. It's gonna take a couple years to develop it, but I like the kid, and if we could move up to high 30s or 30, I mean, if we get who we want at 11 and we could get into the end of the first round, I would consider grabbing that kid as well. Preferably in the second, just because that whole guaranteed contract thing. I prefer to have a guy that we could kind of have on a lower salary and build him up slowly.
I mean, yeah, especially because he's not going to be ready. I like Sotto too, but when you look at Kessler and you look at Koloko, they're going to give you more right now. So you're kind of betting on Sotto that a year or two from now, he's going to grow into, his skills. He's going to get strong. And obviously, if that's the case, his upside is definitely much higher than Kessler and Koloko, but you're betting on that, So a bet like that, maybe in the 40s, he's not even on a lot of mock drafts. You moving up to take that bet?
Yeah.
I mean, again, if we get our guy at 11,
But there's more guys to be had, even
then I
at
think
42.
you playing with house money at that point. I think. I mean, the same argument you make about us moving back and acquiring an asset. I think you could make that argument about whomever we draft with the 42nd pick. You know what I mean? That guy may not be in a rotation. That guy may be a guy that gets to kind of develop in the G League and work his way. Like, I think once you start talking about that second pick, that second round pick, you could kind of play around with it. You know what I mean? You could draft a guy based off potential, and not have the pressure of, all right, you got to come in and start or come in and be an impact player immediately. And like you guys said, we have a lot of young players. So if we're getting a young player that we don't have to rely on immediately, you know what I mean? Like, we could kind of watch from afar and give him some things to work on to make it to the big team. I'm all for it. I'm all for it. And 7'3". I mean, the potential the only if he was just a little bit stronger, I think I would be even higher on him immediately. But even at, I think he's listed at what, 240, 235. That's a higher weight than Mitch came in with.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I don't think he's weak. I don't think the strength is going to be an immediate issue. It's really about kind of one, confidence, and then playing to his strengths. And he has a lot of strengths.
I tell you one thing, I love that footwork though. That footwork that he did, a little dream shake he did. I was like, oh yeah, I like that. I haven't seen that in a long time. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen bigs do that. So I think that's really something that's telling about what kind of offensive potential he has with that dream shake.
And he's a student of the game. Like if you watch some of his interviews, he talked about studying Hakeem. I forgot who's the other big. He said
Tim Duncan.
His favorite player. Yeah, Tim Duncan. So like when you got a guy that's studying these guys, especially from bigs, you barely hear that too much. I mean, maybe it's not asked enough from the media and such, like who you modeled your game after, but you don't really hear that too much from bigs. Like, oh, I studied this guy, I watched this guy, I like to look at film of this. You kind of just hear, I'm working on my three, I'm working on it. You know what I mean? But you don't say who I emulated or who I Go ahead. I see you.
No, because it's funny. No, I think it's absolutely, you're absolutely right. Because again, as a football coach, and I told Sim this a long time ago, like, I had offensive linemen that were trying to play quarterback and running back and all this, like all the positions that really get all the hype and all the, all the praise and everything like that. Offensive linemen, defensive linemen, right? Instead of them focusing on their craft and learning from, I never had a defensive lineman. I never had a defensive lineman say, "Oh, I want to be like Michael Strahan." And I'm like, "No, I want to be like Michael Vick." You know what I'm saying? So I think it's very similar in the NBA, where you have mostly bigs that can shoot the basketball now, dribble off the floor, do different things like that. Say, "Okay, I want to be like Mike or LeBron," or stuff like that. And I think that's how the NBA has changed. But again, if you can get a guy like Sotto, who's a student of the game, who's able to do stuff that Jokic can do, I think that's what makes Jokic a really good player in the NBA, because he's able to study the game and his IQ is that high. You never know what you can get from a guy like Sotto. I'm just not moving up to get him. I don't think it's what he brings to the table right now. I don't think it's worth us going up, because I think if you're going to trade up for a guy, that guy has to play right now, right away.
I mean, it don't even necessarily have to be trading up. You might just be able to acquire a second round pick. You know what I mean? Still have your 42. But I mean, when you say, I shouldn't even say that, because I don't think he lasts to 42, to be honest, me personally. Mm-hmm. I think there's been too much hype, number one, around him. But not only that, I think the hype is not just from us. It's not just the fans. It's not just content creators. I mean, he's getting looks from NBA teams. He's getting looks from, I mean, to your credit, Queen, I don't think the Lakers have a draft pick at all this year. And they've been looking at him. So maybe that's as an undrafted
first rounder. I think they have second rounders.
They do have second rounders? Okay. Yeah, well, I was gonna say maybe that's as a undrafted prospect. Maybe that's as a candidate of purchasing a pick from someone. Second round picks. A lot of times you could purchase them easy, and it doesn't it doesn't cost much. It doesn't affect your bottom line. So I think it is an option for us. Either way, I wish the kid well, and I do think from a business and a financial impact, he would do wonders for the Knicks, even if it took him a year or two to actually reach his potential of who he is.
I'm honestly not worried about the guaranteed money thing. I mean, these rookies, particularly at that low, whether you're talking about the 20s, like Quentin Grimes, I think is making $5 million right now. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's guaranteed money, but it's not that big chunk of your cap there. It's enough for us to worry about. Now, you're talking top five. I think RJ at his last season, he's going to be making $14 million. That's a little bit more significant. But yeah, I'm not really worried about whether he gets picked in the first round out because of guaranteed money. I'm not.
I mean, you are though, because you don't want to move up for.
No, but that has nothing to do with the money.
It has nothing to do with the money. I get it.
No, it has nothing to do with the money at all.
But yeah, we got about what 25 minutes to Queen's Court. Any last words? Anything you want to touch on that I may not have touched on?
No, not really. I just need June 23rd to come, so we know what the the Knicks are going to draft, and we can move on to roster building.
I can't wait. At this point, I'm less concerned with the draft than I am with the actual whole event of this draft party, and what we're going to be getting into, and meeting some of the chat members, and I think the second annual, this is going to be better than last year, and next year is going to be better than this year. We got a 2-day event now instead of a 1-day event. We got extracurricular activities. It's gonna be great. Look forward to seeing you there, Queen. Josh, I hope you get the good news that you got the days off. I'm still looking for someone to accept my challenge for the 1-on-1. I've been getting a lot of Chinese sauce, duck sauce. A lot of Donald's, Daffy's, and Howard's. So I don't know, man. Maybe somebody will step up and take my challenge. It's not like I'm nice, I just want to play. I just want to play for the, play a fellow content creator. You guys are gonna make me take on the loser of Sim and Isaiah if nobody steps up. But yeah, let me pay the bills real quick and then we're gonna get out of here.
The second annual NBK draft party in Atlantic City. There'll be a live podcast, live DJ, live video shoot. $40 for a VIP ticket, $30 for draft night only. Get your tickets now.
That's right. Get your tickets now, and you could come if you can't make draft night. You could come Friday, and you don't got to worry about working the next day and spend the weekend. We're gonna be there the whole weekend, but the events are Thursday and Friday. That's it. We out of here. See y'all on Queen's Court. Appreciate you joining. Shout out to the chat. Your Blackest Time.